Yes, people, welcome back to GNA TV and Chelsea Fan TV for another Chelsea news show. I am joined by Ben Jacobs, who hasn't got much time, so we're going to have to speed things up. But guys, make sure you're smashing the likes, subscribing to the channel, and let's cue the interview. Yes, everyone, welcome back to GNA TV and Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you guys are having a pleasant day wherever it is that you are across the world. I'm joined by Ben Jacobs, who, like I said, hasn't got much time with us. So we are going to just start flying through things. And when we find a bit more time, we'll probably talk to Ben a bit more about life, shall I say. But Ben, how are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to the live chat at some point over the summer.
Right. Let's get into it. Let's start with Mason Mount. Obviously, Man United have supposedly put in a 40 million bid, which was turned away from Chelsea. We're expected Man United to come in again for him. It's kind of, I think Chelsea fans themselves have set out for the idea that he is going to leave. It's just Chelsea obviously coming to an agreement with Man United for a fee. Any news or updates in around Mason Mount leaving Chelsea?
Yeah, there'll be a second Manchester United bid for sure. They're not walking away. First bids are often relatively low or water testing, if you like. But it's true to say that Manchester United have got an element of uncertainty because on the one hand, what you have is new ownership that might be coming in. And on the other hand, you have financial fair play as well. And these two things will have to be considered by Manchester United because they want to spend around 100 million in total on two players, not one. So Mount at 70 million presents a problem. Mount at 50 odd million allows them to move in the market. Maybe for Kim, that hasn't advanced yet. Maybe for Rasmus Højlund. So Manchester United aren't just looking at this as Mount. They're looking at this as cumulative spend early in the window. So the first bid was rejected by Chelsea out of hand. It was for 40 million pounds. The second bid is likely to go in very quickly and higher. But Manchester United are not thinking of 70 million for Mason Mount. They want him for under 60 and close to 50. So let's see whether Chelsea budge. That's the key consideration, because if Mount tells Chelsea he wants the move, then they've got a decision to make. They've either got to sell him and take the fee or effectively force Mount to stay against his wishes if that's what the player communicates. And that's always a recipe for disaster. So it's only my personal view, but I've never really bought into this notion that Chelsea will try and make Mount fall in love with the Pochettino, I should say, but there's Pochettino as well over at Spurs, the Pochettino project. Because you're not going to get the best out of him if he wants a new challenge and the club say no. So eventually there might be a meeting somewhere in the middle on fee. But at the moment, it's fair to say that Chelsea are extremely dismissive of the bid for Mount from Manchester United. They rejected it out of hand. They did so near instantaneously. Now it's up to Manchester United to come back. And I think unless Manchester United put a minimum of 10 to 15 more on the number, then Chelsea are just going to keep rejecting.
Yeah, and I think it's one for me that I think will happen. It's only a matter of time. And like you said, I think it's just down to getting the fee agreed between them. A lot of Chelsea fans obviously want to see him go, others don't. But I think Mount's obviously made his decision. It seems like the board of Chelsea have just kind of maybe just given him what they feel is the best offer that they can put forward. And maybe he doesn't feel like that's valued enough. And that's why he's moving on with Man United, which I think is what it is in many ways.
Well, it's not necessarily that. I mean, Mount's been quite unsettled. Obviously, Chelsea have gone through a number of different managers. It's been a year of transition. The contract that he spoke about when the ownership first came in was very different to the contract that was offered to him in February, which was a 1-year extension. So it is accurate to say that Chelsea haven't really made a definitive move at this point. It's not like Mount has a post-season offer ready to either debate or potentially sign. And I think that this is one of the challenges in many ways that Mount's camp, and there'll be two sides to this story, feel like the goalpost changed when Paul Winstanley came in January onwards, and suddenly it became less about a long-term deal that suited Mount and rewarded him for his loyalty at the football club, and certainly the form, not last season, but the season before it. And then the Chelsea perspective is that they have always tried to keep Mount. They've always tried to reward Mount. But ultimately, you get to a point as a club where you have to be flexible, because if the player's simply not signing, you need to find a way of delaying the inevitable winding down of a contract and losing the value, therefore, on your player by maybe trying to get the player to extend by a year. And I know that some people have a problem with that. Maybe the Mount camp feel that they would rather only be discussing a long-term deal or nothing. But we've seen this obviously with Marcus Rashford at Manchester United as well. The only difference was that Manchester United sensibly had the ability to trigger one extra year, and it bought them more time. And Chelsea don't have this option with Mount. So it's got to a point now where at the end of the day, if Mount says he wants to leave, then Chelsea probably will take the fee. And then Manchester United become confident of getting the price down. Mount hasn't communicated that explicitly, categorically to Chelsea, but what I would say is that there is a high probability that Mount will leave. And if Manchester United can make the finances work, there is a very strong chance that his next destination is Old Trafford.
Moving on from Mason Mount to Kai Havertz. Big news in around from what David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano, yourself have also said that Arsenal seem to be very keen on a move for him. Now, Chelsea have valued him for over 70-odd million, which even Real Madrid have turned away and said they're not going to even play ball with Chelsea on. But again, even today, it feels like that Arsenal were maybe one of the only clubs, barring maybe Real Madrid, that seem to be very keen on trying to find a deal with Chelsea for Kai Havertz. Havertz himself, I suppose, he's happy to maybe move on to something new as well. I mean, any more news on Kai Havertz and where he could potentially be going in the future?
Well, Havertz is open to the Arsenal move, that's for sure. Similar to Mount, there's a high price tag, and I think that Chelsea's perspective is that Havertz must renew or be sold, whether or not any club is going to meet Chelsea's valuation. I think it remains to be seen. And Real Madrid, for example, when they explored the possibility of a Havertz deal, were thinking more in a ballpark of 45 or 50 million, and Chelsea's price tag is around 75. I wouldn't take this price tag as maybe rigidly as the Mount one, although I also do think that the Mount one will come down too. And from Arsenal's perspective, they're not looking at 75, and the talks are pointing not only towards a lower number, but structure as well that would also not have the overall package at 75 either. So Havertz at 55 or 60 million, we'd have to wait and see whether or not Chelsea would bend on that. The perspective of Arsenal is they do believe there's a deal here to be done with a lower number. And part of that is obviously because Havertz has been goal shy at Chelsea, and Chelsea are looking for a traditional number 9. And I also think that Havertz might be a better fit playing under Mikel Arteta, and they'd get the best out of him. So maybe Chelsea fans will be torn on this, because if you just look at Havertz last season, for example, many Chelsea fans would say, sell him. And if you can get 60 million, then that's a great bit of business. Use that money to invest in the 3 or 4 players that Chelsea are looking for. And whoever ends up leading the line for Chelsea will score more goals than if Kai Havertz was leading the line for Chelsea. So it feels very positive if you only look at it based on last season. But there's a very realistic chance that in hindsight, if Havertz goes, he sets the world on fire for someone else. And then Chelsea fans are left scratching their heads saying, we're still kind of glad we sold him because he wasn't doing it for us. But how on earth have they got the best out of Havertz and we haven't been able to? So I think he's a fantastic age profile. He's got all the right attributes, but it's obvious that he hasn't been able to score consistently at Chelsea. And what Chelsea need is whoever's leading their line to be getting 15 goals minimum a season, probably more like 20 or 25, because that's how you get from, unfortunately, mid-table mediocrity last season back into Champions League football. And this is why I think that Chelsea are very open in some ways, if Havertz doesn't indicate that he'll sign any kind of renewal, to cashing in now. So if Havertz goes, it won't be to Real Madrid, in my opinion, because they're not going to pay anywhere close to what Chelsea want. Arsenal are going to go higher than Real Madrid, but not as high as 75 million. So we have to wait and see whether the price drops. Arsenal's perspective is that it very well might.
Interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. Before we move into the midfield and potential incomings, I just wanted to talk to you about the striker position for Chelsea, because obviously it's an area that we know, or supposedly know, that Chelsea are going to look for in the summer window. We've got Christopher Nkunku coming in, who, maybe can play that role, but has also said himself prefers playing more of the 10 role just behind the striker. Is there, obviously there's Lukaku, who there's still negotiations going on between Inter Milan and Chelsea, and God knows what's going to happen there. And to be honest, as a Chelsea fan in myself, I don't want to see him back at this club. But in terms of other striker options. Is there any news in and around what Chelsea could be interested, or if Chelsea could be interested in anyone out there?
I think that Chelsea are looking at a number of strikers, and this is why it's so confusing at this point, maybe to fans, because what you're seeing ultimately is a whole host of names, different profiles, different ages, and different prices. And that's very normal. It's not that Chelsea are undecided. It's that the movement of the market hasn't really taken full effect at this point. So, for example, much in the same way that Manchester United want Harry Kane, but they're pessimistic, obviously Chelsea are across a player like Victor Osimhen, for example, but the price is going to be massive. And as a consequence, unless the player forces the move and he is keen on the Premier League, it's going to be extremely difficult for Chelsea to pull a deal like that off. And it's exactly the same, by the way, for Manchester United too. And the reason for that on Osimhen, before we talk about maybe more realistic targets, is because Napoli paid a combined package of 80 million euros for Osimhen from Lille. And that includes bonuses, guaranteed fee, and the valuation as part of the deal for player swaps. So this isn't a player that they signed for 10, 15, 20 million and they're asking for a sky-high number for. This is a player that they paid 80 million euros for in terms of valuation, and this is why they're ultimately asking for near double that value. And that puts Chelsea out of the equation, plus the fact that there's a lack of Champions League football. So Osimhen actually was quite keen on Manchester United a few years back, but he didn't think he was going to get any game time. Now, if the price was to somehow be 110 million and there were new owners, or Manchester United's finances were in a better shape, you'd say there was legs to it. But that's going to be a really tough deal for virtually everybody to pull off at the moment. Then you've got Dusan Vlahovic, still one to watch, who could easily leave Juventus this summer, who revealed that as early as December last year. The clubs that have inquired and have looked on the player side feel like not only is he open to the Premier League, but a deal could be had for something like 75 million euros, which might sound slightly on the low side, but Juventus are in big trouble and big upheaval. So once their board situation settles, as do the investigations against them, we wait and see whether or not there is a willingness for Juventus to drop the price, because Vlahovic isn't really happy at the moment under Max Allegri. Another one to look out for, as was revealed first by Nizar Kinsella, is the Villarreal forward, Nico Jackson. And he falls into a lower price category. He's only 21 years of age and has been in incredible form for Villarreal. I think that it's 9 goals in the last 8 La Liga matches, and Chelsea have already again gone on the player side as well, and a far cheaper alternative to Osimhen, who again everyone keeps saying Osimhen 100 million, and somebody like Nico Jackson 30 odd million, but Osimhen isn't 100 million. Osimhen is 110, 115, 120 million, and that extra 20 million makes all of the difference. And Napoli want all of the money up front. And then the last name is Lautaro Martinez, and officially, if you like, not for sale, impossible, not going to happen. But every single person in the industry tells me the same thing about Inter. They're going to have to offload players. So it's all very well Inter saying Martinez is not for sale, Barella is not for sale, Onana they want to still try and keep hold of, etc., etc., etc. Bastoni is another one that Tottenham have looked at in the past, and it's always been never impossible, but they're not going to be able to keep on to everybody. So I do think that Martinez is top of their list as the players that they will not sell, which is going to present a massive problem. But Inter's finances will dictate that they're going to have to offload. And when Inter held discussions with Milan Skriniar about a move to PSG, and an offer from PSG last summer came in about 60 million euros, Inter were greedy, even though they knew that the player wouldn't extend. And they said, no, 70, 75 million euros. And Nasser Al-Khelaifi at PSG said, okay, I'll see you in the summer when I'm going to take the player off you in a free. Then in January, PSG came back late and said, do you want the money, or are you going to risk losing the player for free? And again, Inter were greedy, and Nasser Al-Khelaifi walked away. And now they've got Milan Skriniar incoming on a free transfer. And that 60 odd million euros that Inter wouldn't take because they wanted 70, 75 is going to be the difference now between them being able to keep on to a star or sell a star. Because even though they're in the Champions League final, their finances are not the healthiest. So watch this space with Inter, because it's all very well them saying no to Barella, no to Bastoni, no to Martinez, no to Onana, and so on. And at the same time, wanting to try and sign Lukaku or loan Lukaku in some capacity. You can't do all of that unless they offload one or two. So watch this space, because virtually everybody that I'm speaking to in the industry, not just Chelsea, but far broader, says pretty much everybody in their eyes at Inter is for sale at the right price.
See, I agree here. I would have actually, if it was my personal preference on here, I would have gone for Ivan Toney, but obviously he had that ban and it goes to, I believe, January, and I think he would have been perfect for Chelsea, especially obviously being Premier League proven, and I think he's a good player. I think he's a very good player. Moving away from the striker area onto the midfield section, Declan Rice, we've learnt today from David Ornstein, has had a bid from Arsenal to West Ham, which we understand has been rejected. And it seems like Man City are also keen in trying to maybe attack that, that which leaves Caicedo, who was one of what we were told Arsenal's targets, quite open. We know Chelsea are quite interested in Caicedo himself. What are your thoughts on this one? Do you think it's a real good opportunity Chelsea might be able to get Caicedo?
Well, Chelsea are going to push for Caicedo regardless of what Arsenal do. And with Moises Caicedo, we know that there's that historical interest from both clubs from January. Chelsea's offer was lower than Arsenal's, but both tried in January. The difference now is that Brighton will sell Caicedo, and Caicedo wouldn't have signed the new deal at Brighton unless he realised that in signing the new deal, he wasn't going to be bound by staying at the football club. So a new deal is almost about protecting the valuation. But in return for doing that, it's accepting that if a competitive offer is placed, Caicedo will be sold. So I don't expect Brighton to be as dismissive or as bullish or difficult in any negotiation, but they have all of the control here because Caicedo signed a new deal. And Chelsea had the intent of, as we know, moving for Manuel Ugarte. They failed in that, and Moises Caicedo. And now it's a case of watching the next few weeks as an offer comes in. Arsenal, I think, will be there. And even if they sign Declan Rice, it depends on the number, obviously, for Rice. But if they succeed in Declan Rice, there's no guarantee that they'll walk away from Moises Caicedo. And when Caicedo released his statement late in January, almost trying to force his way out of the football club. In fact, we can remove the word almost from that. It was Caicedo trying to force the move then. He was very vague about club. So everyone presumed it was Arsenal because he released the statement at the point when Arsenal had placed their second bid. But he simply referred to a, quote, magnificent opportunity. And my understanding is Caicedo is open to Chelsea and is open to Arsenal. It's not about the short term for him. It's about the package for him and his family. And as a consequence, whether it's Arsenal or Chelsea, the fact that Chelsea don't have European football doesn't matter in the short term. So it's going to be about the pitch, which means I would expect Mauricio Pochettino to be a big part of it. And obviously, which club is he going to play more at, and who's got the best long-term plan for him, and what are the financials? They'll all be considered. This isn't only about Arsenal have got Champions League, Caicedo's going to go there. And obviously, if he wanted European football, even though it's not Champions League, he could just stay at Brighton, which again tells you that this is about Caicedo wanting to move to a, with respect to Brighton, bigger club. And Brighton know that. And Chelsea's a bigger club and Arsenal is a bigger club than Brighton. So I'm told pretty categorically that even though Brighton are not waving around a fixed price, it's going to take 70 million guaranteed plus 10 million in add-ons. And that will be the starting point. And if we get bidding war with Arsenal and Chelsea there, then it might be a bit higher. So this is the number required. And obviously January plus the new contract both inform what those valuations are. And I do expect Chelsea to move. The other thing I would add is just not only watch what happens with Declan Rice, but it is very interesting that Arsenal have gone low on Declan Rice. And I think the reason for that is because every transfer affects you in the market. So Chelsea will always get held account to a Mudryk fee or an Enzo Fernandez fee. And they got the players, so that's the positive, but negative, those numbers linger in the market. So suddenly you've got a valuation for yardstick. Arsenal are more disciplined. They get criticised for it. They don't always get their targets, but by being more disciplined, the Rice bid, even if it goes up, will help them if they come in for Moises Caicedo. because logically in the market, Caicedo must be cheaper than Declan Rice. Even though Caicedo signed a new contract, value protected, and Rice's contract has less time on it, Moises Caicedo should not be more than Declan Rice. And therefore, if Arsenal just barge in at 100+ million for Declan Rice, then if they were to turn to Caicedo, Brighton will say you paid 100+ million for Rice. You were straight in there with that valuation. We want 90, we want 95. But if Arsenal come in to begin with at 80 odd for Rice, even if they go up a little bit, even if they go up a lot, they're effectively putting it out there intentionally in the market, whether it's games or whether it's reality, that they think Rice is worth 80 million, which, by the way, as I reported 6 months ago when West Ham was struggling, was the genuine valuation of suitors. They thought Rice would be available for 75 to 80 million, Chelsea included. So then if you're concurrently, and there will be overlap in likelihood, if you're concurrently talking to Brighton about Caicedo and West Ham about Rice, the last thing that you want to do is have people know that you're up here with Rice and you're down here with Caicedo. And again, because one key point in all of this is Caicedo should go for less than Rice, if you're starting and putting it out there publicly that Rice is 80, then it may allow you to start at Caicedo at 70, 75. And I do think that Rice will end up around 100 million. And I do think that Caicedo will end up 80 to 85. So let's see how Chelsea move. I don't think that with Caicedo, it's necessarily about rushing it, because Arsenal have prioritised Rice. Brighton had prioritised selling Alexis McAllister. The agent of Caicedo lives in Dubai and is still in Dubai at the moment. So we wait and see whether anything is imminent. But again, the fact that Chelsea went Agate first, even though they failed in that, probably also tells you that Caicedo isn't going to be done today, tomorrow. It's maybe still going to take a week or two before the picture is a little bit clearer. But Chelsea will be there for sure. But again, it's not going to be 55. It's not going to be 65. It's going to be 70 plus 10, in my opinion.
And that's not only the one midfielder I think we need. Obviously, Kante's going, Kovacic to Man City as well. We lost Jorginho, obviously, last winter, the last season as well. So, who else could be potentially coming through the door? Because, we're going to need it. In theory, we only have Enzo Fernandez in there at the moment. So, Caicedo talks about Latvia from Southampton. Do you think Chelsea,
it's possible as well?
Yeah. Do you think it's possible that Chelsea could push both if they need to for the sheer values, or do you think there will be a little bit more in reserve than there have been the last two windows, which we've seen?
It depends on outgoings as well. I mean, it's not about being reserved. It's about understanding that this is a window of outgoings, and there's 3 windows of outgoings to do in one window, and that's the priority. And then you're only trying to bring in really 3 or 4, 1 to 2 midfielders. I would say probably 2, because it's not just Kante, Al-Ittihad, Kovacic, likely Manchester City, although not done yet. And obviously, Jorginho had gone to Arsenal in January. So you've lost 3 senior midfielders there. And then if Mount goes out the door, there'll be interest in Conor Gallagher. You start saying, yikes. Yeah. So there's a real need for Chelsea to put on the brakes in midfield with outgoings in a weird way, because the last thing they'll want is to lose 4 or 5 midfielders before they've brought one in. And that's the challenge, that Chelsea want outgoings, but you don't want too many outgoings in one position before you've found the incomings in that position. So Chelsea are going to have to play certain outgoings potentially on their own time scale. And this is what we're seeing with Granit Xhaka at Arsenal. They're quite clearly waiting to bring in a midfielder before they allow anything to be finalised there. And I think that is very smart. And, you've got to understand one thing about the window. Every single club in every single position has got 5 to 7 names. So you never go to a player and say, you're my plan B. I'm only going to go for you if I don't get this player. Otherwise, why would the player join if they've got other interest? They think that they're a number 2, they're a number 3, they're a number 4. So every club works concurrently and spins plates at the same time. Every club gives a consistent narrative to players where they don't feel misled, but of course they feel wanted. So I see people in the chat saying Arsenal will never get Havertz, Rice, Caicedo. And financially, that's probably true. But Arsenal don't know they're definitely getting Rice despite the confidence. Arsenal don't know whether they or Chelsea or someone else will get Moises Caicedo, or whether actually there'll be no value in Moises Caicedo. And Arsenal don't know whether Chelsea will drop on the price of Havertz. So this isn't a case of Arsenal in that scenario, or Chelsea, for example, with Caicedo and then Lavia and then a traditional number 9 and then still either a number 1 or a number 2 goalkeeper, etc. This isn't a case of how can you put all these names out there because we're never going to get all of them. That shows a profound lack of understanding at how the window works. Every single club is going for way more targets than they're ever going to get. Every single club is deadly serious about way more targets than they're ever going to get. And every single club almost wants to get 2 targets, even if they know they can only get one of them, to the brink of being feasible. Because guess what? The 2 targets that you want, one of them might pick another club. One of them you might be able to negotiate a deal with. Or you might actually find that you can get both those targets because guess what? You get an extra outgoing. And this, I think, is where Havertz, Mount, Gallagher, 3 players that fall into a slightly unique category. Because if we're talking about Aubameyang, if we're talking about Kante, presuming that he doesn't sign, and obviously he's basically agreed that deal with Al Ittihad now, these are players that Chelsea are planning to get rid of. If you're talking about Koulibaly, perhaps surplus to requirements. If you're talking about Ruben Loftus-Cheek, these are all players that are just Chelsea want to get off the books.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking about a grey area of players that Chelsea could keep, Chelsea could sell, you have a category of players in Havertz, in Mount, in Gallagher that all can command decent fees. So when people therefore say, how are Chelsea going to drop 100 million on a traditional striker? How are Chelsea going to bring in 2 midfielders, both above 60, 70 million? The answer is in that need to sell, which is why clubs that are aware, because everyone knows what the rivals are doing, these clubs feel that Chelsea will have to take a big fee from these players. So there's a opportunity to lowball slightly. And obviously, and I'm giving an extreme example, if Chelsea went from 75 million to 60 million for Havertz, if Chelsea went from 70 million to 50 million for Mount, and if Chelsea sold Conor Gallagher for 40 million, then suddenly on their annual books, they've been able to declare and bring in, even if they don't get all of that money in one lump sum, they've suddenly been able to bring in fees from 3 senior players of well in excess of 100 million and maybe pushing 150 million. Yeah. And that's where you find your 80 million for Caicedo. That's where you find maybe another big chunk to bring in a traditional striker, because what you are declaring annually on your books, as long as there's no amortization remaining, is instant profit. Whereas then what you're spending can be amortized on the books. So this isn't about Chelsea worrying about what they need to do financially to get a big name player in at 80 million, 90 million, because there's not going to be 10 of them. There's only going to be 2 or 3. This is about Chelsea needing the outgoings from somewhere in order to balance the books in the short term. And then obviously over time, we'll see whether the model works. So I think this is why the clubs are quite confident that the Havertz fee will come down. I think this is why the clubs are also quite confident that in the context of Mount, particularly Manchester United, eventually something might get done.
Yeah, 100%. I know you ain't got a lot of time, and it'll be nice to obviously have you back on with a bit more time than obviously half hour. And I know you've got to shoot. So listen, we'll come back to you when, I'm sure we'll get you back on soon anyway. And it's only just started. There's going to be so much going on. I'm pretty sure you're going to be running around crazy, just letting us know and using that as well, Ben. But I appreciate you actually giving us this time as well, as always. And any sort of fun thoughts before you shoot?
No, I think you summed it up quite well. It's going to be busy for Chelsea. It's going to be outgoing centric for Chelsea. And I think that once we see them back in pre-season, we'll start to understand what Pochettino ball looks like. And obviously, it's not only outgoings and incomings, it's also resolution of futures and pathways for players. I mean, amongst everything, people forget that we're speaking about who's leaving and we're speaking about who's joining. And then there's the obvious ones that might be sold, but not that many people are speaking about Andre Santos and what will happen to him when he returns to the Premier League and how quickly can he adapt, and is he going to be a squad player? Almost nobody is talking yet about Levi Colwill. And remember, Pochettino in a back 4 might have to play 2 left-sided centre-backs. Otherwise, is Levi Colwill going to turn around and say, you want to keep me, I'm not for sale, but where's my pathway here? And centre-back for me is a big question mark for Chelsea, because Koulibaly could go fine, but it doesn't look like Silva is going to leave. We know he signed a new contract. There was a lot of rumour about him going home. That doesn't appear to be the case. he probably is going to be prepared to be more of a mentor, play in less games and help some of the younger players come through. But it's obvious if you play a back four, there's 2 centre-back spots. And I thought Badiashile was outstanding. I think Fofana's been signed for the long term. You got Levi Colwill, you got Thiago Silva, you got Koulibaly at the moment, you got Chalobah, even though a lot of people feel that he might go. Way too many centre-backs. But even if you only had 4 senior centre-backs that everybody liked, 3 of them are still going to be young. So one of them is going to be unhappy. And Fofana was bought to start. Badiashile was bought to start and has deserved to start, by the way. And Colwill is an elite centre-back that Chelsea think is a massive part of their future. So there are some big decisions made. And I don't see Pochettino playing a back 3. But it'd be interesting as well, because we know Pochettino's style and formation. But if you look at James and Chilwell and then the need to play 3 centre-backs in terms of keeping everyone happy, a back 3 might be the best way of keeping everyone happy. But Pochettino, for me, will play a back 4. So suddenly there is a big question mark over a number of these players that Chelsea don't want to get rid of, but might be unhappy with their role in the squad. So the first starting 11, if everybody is fit in that department, is going to be really intriguing.
100%. I'll let you go because I know you've got to shoot. Thank you again for coming on, Ben. Take care of yourself. I'm going to continue the show while you're gone. And we'll see you again soon, yeah?
I look forward to it. Take care, everyone.
Take care, mate. See you later on. Cheers. Right. So, guys, we have got Don here as well. But before we obviously speak to Don in a second, there is a comment. Where has it gone? 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
What's happened? What's broken?
I know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can hear you. I'm using my phone right now. I'm just in the middle.
I'm just looking to see what Pliers has said. Someone said Pliers has tweeted. So let's see what he just quickly said. He is talking about a top club is bidding for Rice in the next 24 hours. It's unclear who. Chelsea have asked West Ham to wait as they try to move players on first. That's the Telegraph. So we'll bring that up.
Yeah, man.
We'll bring that up for you guys quickly. As, like I said, we'll be bringing as much breaking news, but there it is there as well from the Telegraph, who are quite a big source. We can't ignore that. They've mentioned the mean. Look, listen, West Ham are going to do what Brighton are going to do with Caicedo. They're going to want to bid him more. That is the truth. So whether Chelsea are there and they're going to be, Arsenal are going to be there. We've heard City are interested from David Ornstein today as well. I think the same will apply to Caicedo as well. And I think you, as a club, if you're selling club, you're going to want a bidding war to get the most you can out of a player, right, Don?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think this is definitely ideal for us with the bidding war. Hopefully that happens with Rice, because a lot of the reports that I was seeing next week, it looked like Rice was going to be a quick one to get done. Arsenal have come in with like a low blow offer, but they're always going to do that, right? No one comes in with the initial with what's going to get accepted as a starting point. They're always going to do that. But I think going back and forth between various clubs and Rice having more options, more solid options, I think is good for us, because hopefully that will mean that a lot of the groundwork we're doing on Caicedo, we can focus on him and hopefully get that over the line. Because if anyhow Man City managed to hijack Rice, right, or Bayern, I don't think he'll go Bayern, but let's say Man City come in, because I think they've got a chance, yeah? That means that they're going to turn all their attention to Caicedo, and they've got Champions League football. For me, it's not the be-all, end-all, but Arsenal right now are attractive, right? And you can argue that they're more attractive than us. I do think that we've got an attractive project, but we just don't want to be up against Arsenal. I think we'll outbid them, but I'd rather them go back and forth for Rice so we can hopefully get Caicedo over the line and get that done. We need that done ASAP.
This kind of explains what Ben Jacobs just said just before he left, because he mentioned that for Chelsea to potentially sign 2 midfielders that may cost over the odds, 100 million, 130 million for whatever, it really falls down to the outgoings. And me and you have spoke about this off air, and others have spoke about this off air, and the fact of how important it is that the players that we do sell that hold market value, or that some sort of value to sell, that we try and make something of it, because that there says there we're waiting to move players on. But that also means, I think, players on that we do have, not only the ones that are deadwood because they're going to go anyway, but also ones that maybe are there for value, that then give us the ammunition to be able to maybe attack a target like Declan Rice. Does that make sense? So
yeah, no, it does make sense. But the way I look at it, Jem, right, is this Caicedo thing, right? Because I want this done ASAP, because I'm looking at Man United. let's say the rumors that are going around right now is that they're going to get the Qataris. Yeah, obviously that's not going to be overnight, and I don't know how that's going to affect their budget and who they can come in and buy and whatnot, right? But let's say they get involved and Arsenal start to get involved, right? And we're going back and forth. There's a bidding war for Caicedo with top clubs who have Champions League football, whereas we don't, yeah? I know we can offer Caicedo the bag, but realistically, I don't see why we can't get Caicedo in as well as getting guys out, because a lot of these players are going to get moved on regardless. And the reason why things aren't moving as quickly for them is because we're given a mad value right now, which realistically isn't going to happen for like a Mount or like a Havertz. It's not, it's not a situation where we're not getting offers for them. We are getting offers for them, but we're not getting the offers that we would like on paper. So I don't really agree with this thing of wait to get players out before bringing anyone in, because we're the ones that are delaying the process, if that makes sense, rather than not getting any offers for these players. So that's why I'm just looking at Caicedo like, come on, let's bring him in. Because look at Ugarte, we tried to bring him in and he ain't coming. So why can't we bring in Caicedo? I'm struggling to understand like why they can't get that done without having to wait for 3-4 people to leave, if that makes sense.
It might be like what we said before, and we've seen it with Brighton already, is that I think Brighton, I think most clubs do this. I think that they like to overvalue players. And this is why I said in terms of negotiations, when we're having a discussion, the reason you have negotiators is that it's not a case of something happens here and now. It's a case of it may take a week or two or a month to negotiate the correct package where both the clubs can agree, not specifically the player, because I think the player agreements between the club are something that get done quite quickly, right? It's more what the clubs want and can agree on. And I think when you look at Brighton's model of selling, they're a club that have always sold and made quite an hefty amount on players. Cucurella for 60 odd million. They've done well on. McAllister, to be fair, I couldn't believe how much they sold him for, to be honest. It shocked me that they went for
it's a release clause, isn't it, that one?
But then it was a release clause, wasn't it? So it was just clever bit of business from Liverpool. And I'm quite shocked not many others went in for it as well. But they've got a history of doing that. So I think, unfortunately, in today's market of football, it is very, I haven't seen one in a while, but it's very unusual that you get someone coming with one offer and it gets accepted and then it just gets moved on to the next phase. It doesn't happen, and I think
of course.
I think with us, we also have, and this is what Ben said as well, which is very important. We're not just specifically looking at Caicedo. Yeah, we know Caicedo's on the list, but like most clubs, there will be a number of about 4 or 5 decent players in a position that we need to fill. And from doing that, you might need to find out what the Latvia price is and have that discussion. Find out what we already know what the Caicedo price is, but then go and find out what the Rice price is for discussion. So maybe it's a case of walking around the area at the targets that you want and finding out specifically where you need to be able to achieve and sign the players, which then allows you to narrow it down and then make the decisions later in the window to bring what you think you're going to do. Does that make sense?
The thing is, Jem, it's very clear that Caicedo is our main target. Is the main point that I'm making. Yeah. Even Ugarte, like, he wasn't really the club's main target. I know the club scouted him and they wanted him, but he was more of a Poch target, I would say, rather than the club. But Caicedo is more of a club target, and he's the main target that we're after right now. A lot of clubs want this guy, right? So I agree with how we're moving in the market in terms of the valuable assets, in terms of Havertz and Mason Mount, like outpricing teams to hopefully meet in the middle. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen. But what I don't want is a situation where we're taking too long to move these players on when our plan is to move them on, right? And then a team comes in for Caicedo and now it's a bidding war when we can still get that sorted out simultaneously. That's how I'm looking at it, right? And I'm not sure, I didn't listen to the beginning because I was still working, but I'm not sure what Ben Jacobs said about the deadline being the 30th of June. Did he say anything about that? Because I don't understand.
Well, it started now. It's only been a day that it's been open, isn't it? The transfer window. So I think it's not the 30th.
No, I'm talking about, because the FFP for the books and whatnot, we've got to get rid of these players by the 30th of June, right?
Oh, okay, right. I didn't know that. No, I didn't ask him that.
That's the deadline, yeah. So if that's the deadline and we're just dilly-dallying and, hoping that we're going to get 60 million for Mason, 65 million for Havertz, and waiting for that to happen before we get Caicedo, I don't know, man. I'm just skeptical about that tactic. Because we need to get Caicedo done ASAP. Like, that one needs to get done as soon as possible. I know there's other targets
Well, we need more
Jem,
midfielders.
but-
It's not just Caicedo. Like I said, it's not just bringing
Yeah,
him in.
yeah, exactly.
We need
This
more,
is my
so-
point. This is my point. We can do two things at once. We don't need to wait for outgoings to get new people
Well, maybe
in.
we
We're gonna
are.
move
This
these
is the
guys on
thing. We
regardless.
don't have a fucking clue, do we? We don't know what we're doing, really, do we? We don't know what their plans are or who they spoke to and where we are. I always feel with these kind of news is that we're always like a week behind what's actually going on. You know, you only get told what you need to know, and you know, and then you wait, and all of a sudden you've seen it in the past. Bang, you're like, oh, we signed this one, David Ornstein,
Yeah.
Brexit, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen so quickly? Do you know what I mean? So
What
I think
there's a lot of contradictions, so it's hard for me to like read between the lines. I'm just going off of it of how I would deal with it. Obviously, I'm not in that position to know the ins and outs of FFP and the books and whatnot. But logically, if you know that we need to upgrade our midfield, surely you'd be sorting out incomings for the midfield and moving on the players that, number one, don't want to be here, and number two, have multiple offers on the table. Because Mason Mount's going to have other clubs interested other than Man United. Obviously, ideally, we want to get rid of him, and Man United are known to spend money, right? Havertz, I'm not too sure about. I think we're going to be flexible on him. But, Jem, you know these guys are going to get moved on. It's not going to be a situation where we're stuck with them. They're going to get moved on. So we've got to be quick with these incomings, man, because it's getting a bit... I'm not getting worried, but I'm getting a little bit frustrated that I'm not seeing much movement. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe
but it's only been one day, bro. It's been one day.
No. In general, I'm not hearing much in terms of incomings. I'm hearing a lot about outgoings.
But that doesn't mean we're not doing anything, though, does it?
No, exactly. This is the point. This is what I'm saying. Let me land. This is the point. This is the point I'm getting at. So I'm glad that they came out the other day and said that Poch is going about it, saying be calm. You know, there's less leaks that are going on now. I'm not seeing as many leaks as what I was seeing last summer. Remember last summer, people were complaining, why is Bowley going around telling people who we're looking at and all of these things?
Yeah,
so I am happy that we're not hearing much about it. I'm just hoping and praying, like I said, things are cooking in the background. And then we're just going to start getting all these updates about agreement close and all of these things, right? But like I said, I'm just hoping that's the case, not just waiting for outgoings before we start moving aggressive.
Yeah.
That's the point that I'm making.
Okay, mate. What you saying, Yellow Bus? How you been?
I'm good. Just waiting for a time to join the conversation. But
your time, bro. Your time. Let me know. I mean, do you agree with what Don was saying? I mean, from what you said there in regards to the midfield and maybe us moving forward quickly,
I agree that we should bring those guys in right now because, you know, we're not at the same place that we've been in these last few years. So there's no guarantee if you wait for Caicedo. The market moves very, very fast, right? Gundogan hasn't signed his deal. You know what I'm saying? Bernardo Silva wants to leave. If they really go for Rice, Arsenal is going for Caicedo. You know what I'm saying? So you have to get these guys as quickly as possible. Where I disagree is you're not going to get the money you want from Mount and Havertz. First of all, it's not going to happen either way. And second of all, when you sign their replacements...
Wait, Dan, you know I agree with that point. I never said
hold on, just
for Mount and Havertz. I never once said that. Jem knows this. I'm saying I agree with putting that figure on there so we can hopefully meet in the middle. That I agree with. But I don't agree with sticking to that crazy figure, unrealistic figure. That I don't agree with. But I agree with putting that high figure so we can hopefully meet in the middle is the point that I was making. So I agree with the point that you're making there.
Okay. Well, what I was trying to say was even if once you get the replacements in, the price is going to drive even lower. It's going to go even because then you have to sell them. You've bought the replacements. Your squad is too big now. You have to sell Havertz. You've got Osimhen or whoever in. So at that point, you know, maybe you were thinking you could meet in the middle and get 60 because the club somehow wants 80 for Mount. Well, not somehow. It makes sense since, you know, Rice has 2 years left and actually Rice has 2 years left, so it's a little bit different. But they want 80 for him. The first beat is 40. They probably want to meet at 60. If they get a replacement in before he leaves, it's that price is going to drop even lower because they know you have to sell him. They know he wants to leave, and they know you already spent the money. So if they know all these things, it's give him to us for 45. He's not going to sign, and I know he's not going to sign. So you're going to have to sell him for like a discount. But that's the game you have to play. You know, we're trying to win on all ends. We're trying to win in terms of sales, like sell everybody for 80 million, blah blah blah, and then sign all the players we want. You know, in quick time. It could happen that way, but you know, the market moves very, very, very quickly. Gundogan says signing, shit changes very, very quickly. City might go into that Rice bid and say, yeah, we're signing him now. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Right. And then that opens things up on a different end. It's like, what do you do then? Caicedo goes here. This guy goes here. Now we're panicking, So I do agree with you. If you want these guys, get them now. But unfortunately, you're just going to have to take that loss when it comes to, Havertz and Mount. That's just the way it has to go.
This is not an ordinary window for us. Like, this is not a team, right, that's got these assets, and we've got a stable team. We've had a manager that's been here 2-3 years, and it's like, okay, Mason Mount wants to leave. Okay, we're gonna hold out for the most money that we can get. This is an exception to the rule season, because, like I said, we've got a bloated squad. We've got a bunch of players that teams know we need to get rid of. We've been on streams, guys. We've had conversations about this, that we know teams are gonna come in knowing we need to get rid of players. So we're not gonna be able to get the amount that you would normally get in the usual window when they know that we need to get rid of these players. So like I get the whole business aspect and trying to get as much money as possible, but if that affects us getting in a player like a Caicedo because we're waiting for these outgoings and we're dilly-dallying, then I'm going to lose my shit. But if we're working in silence and we're still going to get that sorted out, do what you need to do, is how I look at it. I'm not going to overly criticize now. It all depends on the outcome of it.
There's also news that apparently Manchester United are in a race for Onana along with Chelsea. So again, one of the things that Ben Jacobs stressed on earlier on is that Inter Milan are in a position where every player is for sale. Just because they have to sell, they're in a position where they have to, supposedly. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But it's just that, stay on midfield for a second. Go to Couch. How you doing, my man? How's everything?
Yo, it's been a minute, guys. Hope everyone's well. Jem, you're looking like you got a tan, man. Where you been, man?
I've been in England. It's very hot here, mate, at the moment. It's hot
today. Heat wave, man. Heat wave here.
So, how you been?
Well, I'm good, man. Just busy as always, work and more work, and trying to stay on top of what's happening with Chelsea, but it's been hard. Hasn't really been a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's basically what Don is saying. Like, we have to get people out first, and that's kind of where my contention is. My point of contention. I know we had discussions offline about this as well. I don't think it's going to be easy to move some of these names. Some of these people that we think are on their way out. It's not going to be easy to just move them out the door and command a transfer fee for them. So I think that's the holdup right now. We have to get these players and their agents involved in getting the right deals in place, because it's not like people are going to be kicking down the door asking for Pulisic, kicking down the door asking for Ziyech and whatnot, kicking down the door asking for Lukaku. It's just not going to happen. It's going to take the player and the player's agent, to get involved and try and find moves for them. So I think that's where a lot of the hang-up is. We can't necessarily just willy-nilly go in the window and start spending overs and overs and overs again and expect that the situation is just going to fix itself on its own. It's not, so
this is interesting, because as we speak, there's other little bits and bobs. This is from the Times now, who have just came out and said that Arsenal have withdrawn their interest in Moises Caicedo. That's for Gary Jacob, who works part of the Times.
They've withdrawn their interest, yeah.
Well, that just basically means that they feel like they're getting Rice
and Havertz, for the looks of it. Because I was saying this yesterday.
You're not getting Havertz.
You don't think they're going to get Havertz?
No, I don't think.
I don't even think that's a real rumor.
That price and says we're not paying.
No, because even like they've been
Arsenal's not paying.
They've been seriously interested in Rice, and we've been knowing about this bid that was incoming from them, right? And even then, there was still links to them potentially putting in a bid for Caicedo. And then yesterday, the news came out of Havertz. Now they've withdrawn their interest, which to me makes sense, because how are you going to bring in that many players and still bring in a Caicedo? Because they're going to have to spend at least 50 if they want Havertz. At least 50.
I don't think it comes down to that. It's just what deal is most desirable. They could have been in for Caicedo and been in for Rice, and the one that they wanted to choose came to fruition first, and that was Rice. I don't like, for me, honestly, it would have stabilized their midfield to get both of them, but that's crazy. That's crazy talk to be able to be in for both. It's one or the other at this point. Like most teams right now.
Price also plays a huge part. Maybe they thought they could get Rice for a little bit less, and then they'll go for another blockbuster signing. Nah, maybe Rice is going to be 110. So if he's 110, you don't have that money to go for a Caicedo as well. That's your whole budget. That's an extra 30-40 million than what you plan to spend.
No, but everyone knows that Rice's price was going to be high anyways. Like everyone.
No one. I mean,
This is the thing. This is the thing.
I thought this summer was going to go down to at least 80, 75,
So
80.
Nah, no chance. No,
mate,
chance.
it's too much money. I'm not joking. 100 million plus for Declan Rice is ridiculous.
But I mean, listen, it's the way it is. Sure, Many went for 100 million. So
yeah,
the market is fucked.
No, but
I agree with you. I agree with you guys. I agree with what you guys are saying because realistically, I didn't see Arsenal going in for Rice and Caicedo, even with the reports that I was seeing. But there were reports that were coming out from a lot of reliable sources that were saying that they're interested in Caicedo as well as Rice, not just one of the two.
Right, but that's what I mean, though. That's what I mean, though. You're interested in both, but you're going to take one. You know, like interest means that you're monitoring both situations.
No. What I'm saying is, and it was confirmed that they were interested in both of them, like not just Rice. It was Rice and Caicedo was the point that I made.
You're still missing my point. I understand that they're interested in both, but it's interest in both and then signing one. You know what I mean? So
I think what he's trying to say is it was kind of like us with the Ugarte and Caicedo.
Yeah.
Like we'll sign both, but our number one target is Caicedo. So
exactly.
if Ugarte is too much money, we're not doing that. We're just gonna go for.
But this is the part that don't make sense. This is what Ben Jacobs says as well, right? The fact that Arsenal have gone so high, say high on Declan Rice, could also mean that if they don't get Declan Rice and Brighton see the amount of money that's been put forward for him, that they could go back to Caicedo, who's only about 70 million plus 10 million in add-ons, and know that they'll be able to take. So this whole thing of
but that's the other thing too. If they put it out there that they know, you know, they bid 100 million for Rice, you know, that almost drives up the price for Caicedo now. You know what I mean? Like that. Now they go back and say, well, we'll give you 70 for. That's the same thing that they did with Modric, really, and Trossard. You know, like they knew what the offer was there, and they're like, okay, fine. Well, here's.
So you've got 80, 90 million. You've just put that towards Rice, and then you're coming back and giving us the 70. Well, actually, we want 85 now.
Exactly.
No, I don't think that's gonna. Come on, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Why not? Why not?
Because apparently they have an agreement with Caicedo.
They can go.
Offer comes in. I don't know what that reasonable offer is, right?
Well, so we can't speculate on that then.
I would say with Caicedo.
Pretty much you're looking at in general, right? We're speculating that they'll raise their price based on what Rice is.
I just seen that before, is what I'm saying. Like you go into the window, you go for your number one target.
Price wasn't raised.
It's happened with Chelsea so many times, where like Chelsea go in for one target, miss, and then have to pay overs for a secondary target. You know, it's crazy.
Well, that's us fucking up. But
this is very interesting. One second, guys. This is very, very interesting. Fabrizio Romano has just commented, and he don't usually comment on things but look what he's put. Caicedo with the thing, and then hashtag CFC. And this is him. So basically, he's retweeting what he said on June the 5th in regards to. He said regardless of how the Ugarte saga will finish with PSG, the match point, and Chelsea out of the race. As of now, keep an eye again on Moises Caicedo. Chelsea wanted him in January, and they have informed since May. Caicedo's always been in the list with Ugarte. So basically, since we've just heard that news about it, he's basically. Yeah, why would he do that? That's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's trying to get retweets, man. He's saying nothing.
That's a retweet, yeah.
He's Robert Romano, man.
He's basically reiterating it. That's what he's doing.
He's not saying anything.
Well, he obviously, there must be some truth. What I'm trying to get is there must be some truth towards the comments from the Times then, because why would Fabrizio Romano go out his way? Yeah. Do you get what I mean? So there's
definitely a connection. There's definitely a connection to say that we're still in the running and he's our main target because he's mentioned his name for a while. He keeps mentioning his name. So with these things, you have to read between the lines at times. You know what I'm saying? But my concern is just other teams getting involved and it becomes a bidding war because with Caicedo, I look at him the same way I looked at Enzo, right? We were lucky that we were the only club that came in for Enzo when we did. Because imagine if we left Enzo to the summer and we were up against teams like Madrid. Do you know what I mean? Every team pretty much in the Prem, Man City would take this guy. It would have been peak for us.
We got an update now. We got an update. He's done that and then he's commented saying this 42 seconds ago. Chelsea are working hard on Moises Caicedo deal. Talks have been taking place for weeks. Nothing done yet. It has always been Chelsea's front runner despite rumours of Arsenal bidding last week. Arsenal's focus remains on Declan Rice and Havertz. More to follow.
Jim, what did I just say? The news came out today about Rice, about Arsenal pulling out. The news just came out today, Jim, that Arsenal pulled out of Caicedo. after we heard about them interested in Havertz is the point that I was making. I don't see how they're going to sign Havertz and still be interested in Caicedo. So when I saw the Havertz news yesterday, I even said in the group chat, Jem, I said, surely this must mean that they won't be interested in Caicedo anymore, because how the
That
hell
is interesting.
gonna bring in...
That right there is interesting.
I still don't follow that logic. I don't know if you're going to be. I still don't think they're going to be able to bring in both Caicedo and Rice to begin with. Anyways, that's what my stance in is one or the other.
As much as you think they wouldn't be able to do it, they wanted to do it, bro. This is the point that you're missing.
No, I don't think that's what's being said here. I think they had interest in both, and they've made a decision to go for Rice.
Like Dan said, we had interest in both, in Ugarte and Caicedo. We wanted both of them, bro. It's the same thing as Arsenal. More than enough reliable sources said they wanted both.
What makes you think that we wanted both, though? Based on what?
What do you mean based on what?
Based on what
we wanted both of them.
So if we bought Ugarte, would we be in for Caicedo right now? Chances are probably not.
Yes. Wait, Coach, where have you been? Have you not been keeping up with everything that's been coming out around that?
No, that's not the point. I'm telling you that, like,
no, but I'm telling you,
you can have interest in both players and not have to go out and buy both players.
100%, but that's not what's happening here.
That's not what's happening here, bro.
So what is happening here? So what is happening here?
We've told you about 3-4 times.
Players.
So they're interested in both. So why are they now pulling out of one?
Because they've gone in for Havertz, like I just said. I said that earlier. I literally said about 20 minutes ago.
When did they go in for Havertz?
Yesterday. The reports came out yesterday that they're looking to put in a bid for Havertz, right? So as soon as I saw that, I straight away said in my group chat,
40 million bid.
40. However much it is, it's not going to be 40 million.
Okay, so regardless, that should not impact an £80 million bid.
Hold on. Rice is going to be. Hold on. Exactly. Rice
is always going to be 100 million. What do you guys mean?
Okay, all right. You knew everything.
You're not understand. You're not listening to what we're saying. You're just not listening.
You're saying that because they had 100. Rice was 100 million. Caicedo's 170 million. You're saying Havertz, they're going in for Havertz for 40 million. Where is the congruence there?
No.
They're not getting him for 40 million.
They're not getting him for 40 million. What it is, they know they're going in with a bid. They're gonna go in with a bigger bid for Havertz because Mikel Arteta wants him, right? What I'm saying to you is they want Havertz as well as Declan Rice. Okay, they want both of them, and they wanted Declan Rice as well as Caicedo. Same way we wanted Caicedo as well as Ugarte is the same way that they wanted Rice as well as
Havertz and Caicedo even remotely similar in terms of like the transfer market.
Forget about the positions. The point is that is a lot of money to be spending because what Arsenal fans are saying to us is they're going to be playing Havertz as a left centre mid is what I'm hearing. They're not saying anything about him playing as a 9. They're saying that he's going to play in midfield. Is the point that they've been making. I don't know, and I don't care because I'm not an Arsenal fan.
I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen. Is what I'm saying. I'm just saying, when you show interest in two players, it's not because you're necessarily going to buy both players. It's because you have interest in both.
Yeah, can you go back to that tweet?
It's semantics at this point. You guys have your opinion about how you see it.
It's not my opinion. It's not our opinion. It's literally what's been reported by
guys.
But it's literally been reported that they're interested in both players. Yes.
All right. Okay. Jem, can you go back to that for Brizio tweet that he retweeted?
Okay, I'm not getting it.
One second.
They're going to pay 180 million on 2 midfielders.
Okay, right,
they will go. Dan.
Guys, we're going back. We're going around in circles here. 2 seconds.
Yeah, we're losing.
Okay, big up, Jim. Bro, Caicedo is on. Hell yeah, he's happy with that. What was you saying, Dan? Just now.
The Fabrizio tweet, because this is where we're going from. The top sources, what they're saying in their connection with the club. Otherwise, I don't know anything, right? Then we just might as well not speak about anything. But what Fabrizio said in the retweet before he did this tweet, right, in January, was that we wanted Ugarte, regardless of what happens there, we're also going after Caicedo.
So basically says, regardless of how this finish with PSG, having a match point.
We're not making it up that.
No, keeping an eye on. Yeah,
nobody's making up anything. I just think that interest in both players doesn't mean you're signing both players.
But that's it wasn't just interest. It's not just interest though, Couch. Is what you're missing the point, bro. Like we were interested in both, but the facts are we wanted both. And it's the same thing with Arsenal. They were interested in both, but the fact is they wanted both, bro. They wanted both of them. So they wanted Declan Rice as well as Caicedo. Same way we wanted Ugarte as well as Caicedo, not just one of the two. We wanted both of them, and it's the same thing as Arsenal. They wanted both of them. Hence why yesterday, when I saw the Havertz news, I said realistically, this must mean they won't be in for Caicedo anymore, because there's no way you're going to spend over 100 on Rice, and there's no way you're going to spend at least 50 on Havertz and still bring in an 80 million player.
I think this is just becoming semantics, because like I said, I know that they had interest in both. Whether or not they're going to be able to pull off both is remote to me, because 180 million on 2 players in one window is ridiculous. That's what I'm saying.
But Couch,
they made a decision.
That's your opinion.
They made a decision to pull out of Caicedo because they know what Rice is going to cost, and they've gone and they're whatever. If you guys think that he's going for Havertz for 40 million, then that's.
I mean, Fabrizio's literally said it there. Arsenal focus remains on Declan Rice and Havertz, so it clearly shows that Havertz is the reason why they've pulled out of Caicedo, because they can't afford all 3 of them. That's very clear to me reading off of that, and I worked that out yesterday when I saw the Havertz news. I didn't need Fabrizio to report that. I knew they wouldn't be able to get all 3. That's a lot of money on all 3. But
that's exactly the point I'm making.
Someone just said, imagine Caicedo goes to Chelsea and Rice goes to City.
That's what I hope. That's what I hope for.
No, why were you hoping for that? I'm tired of City winning, man. Fuck that.
I don't even rate City, to be honest. Like, obviously, every one of those titles to me is tainted. Like, they don't even seem like a real team to me. The fact that they built that thing so unrealistically. You know, like, they've broken FFP so many times, have not been punished for it.
So we've got a comment from Fixture Romano. I didn't see this one, but Arsenal significantly advanced on Declan Rice's personal terms in the last few days. That's why Arsenal will bid again to find a solution with West Ham. 80 million was never going to be enough to convince West Ham, as they hope for more than 100 million. So there you go on Declan Rice news. But the Caicedo news seems to be heating up. That's the real big thing here now, you know. So, and good. We need that. I think Enzo and Caicedo is quite tasty, in my opinion, if you want it. I think he can play a role in a Pochettino system, which allows Enzo to be more focused in going forward. I still think he will have his duties to then, you know, get involved and work with it. But I think Caicedo, in terms of being the player that you can maybe leave to just sort of clean up and hold and be a bit box to box and cover positions, I think he can do it. And not just that, his ability on the ball is very good. We've seen it, very, very good. So why not? Is he a good replacement for N'Golo Kante in the way that N'Golo Kante played for Chelsea?
I don't think he can replace N'Golo Kante, to be honest.
But no, I mean, he brings that sort of box to box element to him. But what I think he has more than what Kante has is just the ability on the ball.
I just think that what Kante brings will never be replaced. It's impossible to replace. But I agree with you. Like, he's similar box to box presence, but as soon as Kante goes out the door, you have to revolutionize your midfield, because there's no way you're going to be able to play the way you did with Kante. There's no way. Nobody can do that.
That's why we had the problem with Eden Hazard when he left, because it was like, oh, we're bringing Christian Pulisic in. He's the new fucking Hazard.
Not even close.
We never had Hazard. Do you know what I mean? Like, Hazard's just Hazard. You need to accept that.
But I mean, listen, the profile of guys that we're getting in are guys that have the ability to do everything. They have their specialty, yes. But they should have the ability to give us, you know, something in both ends. While with Kante and Georgie, you know, Kante was carrying that fucking load, impressing players, winning the ball and all that. You know what I mean? And physically, he couldn't handle that anymore. In this situation, Caicedo is not as good as Kante in winning the ball. Nobody is. Like, he's probably the best we've seen, right? But he's better than everybody else that he's playing against.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's all that he needs to be, right? All he needs to be is better than everybody he's playing against. He doesn't have to be as good as Kante.
I just think that Kante, the way Kante plays, he just fills so many gaps, right? Like,
but this is an all-timer. Like,
yeah.
So, you know, same way we've never replaced someone like Lampard. We haven't replaced someone like Fabregas. All these guys, this all-timers is really hard. But if we can get a dual midfield that can do everything, like these guys probably can. Like, Caicedo can also score. He can create. Yeah, I've seen him do all these things. You know what I mean? Like, he understands what he's good at and how to get, you know, chances out of it, which is really good. Like, he reminds me more of Essien.
Yeah.
Essien was able to you know, he just had that ingenuity. Not like creativity, like something crazy, but he was like, you know what I mean? He would just create something and just.
But Essien played that sort of DM role as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he played everywhere.
DM, right? You know?
Right back for a whole season.
Yeah. He did, yeah. He was versatile. I think Caicedo's very versatile. I think he brings versatility as well, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think
I agree.
And
Top
do you know why he's
Quality.
versatile as
Enzo
well, right? It's not just his footballing abilities, his intelligence to actually read the game. Like
yeah.
for you to be able to play in so many positions and play them the way he does, especially at right back. I've never seen this guy play at right back, and this guy had Martinelli on toast. He even ended up injuring him. Do you know what I mean? So this is going to be a player that's going to elevate our team completely, man. That's
He's
why
a
I'm
player that
so
we've needed in midfield for a very long
need him.
time. We've neglected this area for a very long time. I mean, this type of profile of player, when you look at what we've had in the last 3 years between Kante, Kovacic, and Jorginho, none of them really have the abilities that we require to balance our systems, and he does because he's versatile in being able to do a lot of things and bring physical presence.
You know what he
midfield.
gives us is he gives us an ability not to have to give up quality because he can only play in one place, right? Because let's say
Yeah,
you
there's
want
no
to
more specialty midfielders right now. You have a little bit more of a well-rounded midfielder now.
Exactly. Like you don't have to drop him and say, oh yeah, because if I have to play, if Enzo's injured, he might take on more responsibility in terms of doing a play. It's not going to be the same level as Enzo, but it's going to be to a very good level because he's played at Brighton and he's been doing it. So things like that allow you not to lose quality, where you have to play someone like a Loftus-Cheek now. Like, come on,
I don't mind having that Villarreal. If it was
where
Caicedo,
you can say, fuck it, I'll play him as a lone DM since Enzo's injured and play two eights or two attacking mids instead. So you don't drop quality instead. You know what I mean? You can shift things around, not bring in someone like fucking
I just think that when you bring in different. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
I was just going to say, with regards to Ashraf's comment here, this goes back to what Don was saying at the beginning about what are we doing, what's going on, and I said to him, because we're not hearing it doesn't mean they're not doing anything. Chelsea, they're obviously doing things in the background, But go on, Catch, what you saying?
No, I was just going to say, I'm with is it Ininje? Like that's exactly what I'm after right now. I would love to see a Caicedo Lavia midfield. Not just because I've been banging on about Lavia for months now. It's just because those are the types of midfielders that represent the modern day midfielder right now. A bit more of an all-arounder, a bit more of a guy that can do everything on the pitch. I don't want to be seeing us spend overs for guys that can only play in a specialty role. That's
100%.
Lavia, man, I don't even need to speak on him. You guys heard me bang on him before. He's a very, very, very accomplished midfielder for his age. And I think that his growth tree is just exponentially bigger than some of the targets that we've had so far.
Yeah, I hear that. Obviously, there's a little bit of news elsewhere from Tottenham, who have supposedly put a 50 million bid in for both Harvey Barnes and James Maddison as well.
Didn't I see something about Conor Gallagher too?
50 million for both two players.
50 million for both. Are they all right?
50 million for both, yeah. 50 million.
Didn't I see something about Conor Gallagher going to Tottenham too?
Conor Gallagher is a Brighton link, supposedly. So maybe that could aid. I don't think so. It might just aid in a separate deal that if we get Caicedo, well, you can have Gallagher for 40, 30 mil, whatever the fuck we're going to sell him for. Because just get rid of that guy, man. I don't even want him in the club. But yeah, the Caicedo stuff's heating up. I agree with Couch. We will go and get another midfielder. We have to. We just have to. Yeah. There's no way that we just get Caicedo and have Enzo and let Ruben go and Gallagher might go, Mount's leaving, whatever. Like, we need more there. And I know people saying, yeah, but there's Andre Santos, there's Caicedo.
Listen, guys, crucify me if you want, but
Carney,
I like Onana, man. I like Onana.
Who? Onana.
Yeah.
The goalie.
No, the midfielder.
Oh, right. I think you wanted to play in midfield. I think, what the
fuck? No, I like the goalie.
We're going to come to the goalkeeping part next, actually. That's what we're going to do in a second. But yeah, no, look, he's been. I think I read something yesterday that Chelsea are supposedly talking, and they will do. There will be a number of options that we will go around and talk to with clubs, and we'll keep the doors open. And it's only been one day, and I think, look, if we get Moises Caicedo in, get him in, and we've got Enzo and him, and then we just get another one in, maybe a Latvia or whoever we think of, an Arna, whatever. That really gives us the strength that we've neglected in the last 3 years at this football club, because we've suffered without this versatility in midfield and the balance to play the 3 system, the 4 systems, not been able to do it because we've not had this. Now we're getting this. And this is what I'm saying. This is the most important thing for me right now. I know we need a striker and people say that's more important, but this is important. This is really important for us now. So we have to get it spot on. And Pochettino's going to play 4 at the back next season. I know Ben Jacobs said Chelsea have got too many defenders at the moment. I agree with him. I think Koulibaly may leave. Chalobah, potentially. Still leaves you with Badiashile, Colwill, Thiago Silva's not going anywhere as well. So, you know, there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of outgoings. And don't be shocked if there's more to go and defensive players that go as well. But when you look at the goalkeepers, guys, I watched Onana in the final properly for the first time. Not say first, a couple of times I've seen him, but properly. He's a very comfortable goalkeeper on the ball, right? He was up near the halfway line at some points against Man City with the ball, you know, knocking balls in, playing balls through the middle. He seems to be very accomplished on the ball. He did have a little moment where he lost the ball, and I was a bit like, oh shit, that reminded me of Mendy. But in terms of shot stopping, he's another goalie that, from what I've seen, that seems to show that he has the capabilities to maybe potentially come over to the Premier League and play for one of the clubs here. But what are your thoughts on Onana? Do you think it's something that we need to, again, address this season with the goalkeeping area? Because we can't have Kepa, can we? Surely.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do there. There was something that came out yesterday or something like that Kepa's still in Pochettino's plans going forward.
Man? Why?
That could very well just be a tactic, though. Like a lot of these things are tactics for lowering prices and not having to pay overs. If you have it out in the media that you want to get rid of both your starting keepers, and you're in for Onana, that just drives up the price. Nobody's gonna be like, okay, well, here's Onana for 30 million, because like obviously when you show interest and you show that you have a desperate need, the price goes up. So a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now is just negotiation tactics, as far as I'm concerned, because I don't think that you look at Pochettino, I don't think that he can look at somebody like Kepa and say that this is the guy that I want to be building, my team around. It's just impossible to think that way, just given what we've seen the last couple of years. So I think there is interest in Onana. I think there might even be an interest in the AC Milan keeper, Magnan, I think his name is. But you don't show.
He doesn't want us apparently. Came out already.
Well, there you go. Like I said, like I don't think that you show your hand, especially this early in the window, and you kind of have to be doing both things at the same time. So you have to be moving people out at the same time as you're moving people in. If you show your hand a little bit too early, you're shitting. You're in trouble. So let's hope that that's what's happening behind the scenes.
Where's Jem?
Jem's on mute, man.
Must be something to do with his camera.
Yeah. So what are you guys thinking? Onana, is he the guy?
He's good. I think he's good, but not. Look, I've just got other options, man. There's other options. I want Caicedo and Lavia. That's who I want. Couch. I'll be real with you. I want Caicedo and Lavia.
Here's the reason why I don't want Lavia. It's because and you guys might not, but it's because I rate Santos really, really, really highly.
Okay.
And I feel
I
like
haven't seen enough of Santos to know, so I can't really say.
They're very, very similar. So I just feel like if I have one 18-year-old I've spent a lot of money on to I want to develop and see where he's at. Because Lavia isn't the finished product. He needs time and patience as well.
Lavia is sick.
So I'm like, if I'm gonna spend Onana isn't the finished product either, but he's just such a unique profile.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, though, isn't it? 50 million.
He's a monster in there. But
that's probably how much you're gonna have to pay for Lavia. They're saying 50 M's minimum, Southampton.
Yeah, but I'll prefer. Who would you rather have, Lavia or Onana?
Yeah, 100. I would rather Lavia. I just said I'd rather
Caicedo
and Lavia.
Then Onana. I think I've got a feeling the yellow bus might pick Onana. By the sounds of it.
Yeah, I like Onana.
I don't think he's. I think Latvia has more tools to his locker.
Yeah, like to me, Onana seems like another specialist, if you ask me.
Nah, what?
Yeah, he's very much a defensive midfielder, right?
Nah, he plays everywhere. Watch the game against Liverpool. He started in a double pivot, played number 8, then played number 10.
He's got the frame of Obi Mikel. That's what he reminds me of.
I mean, or second striker, whatever the hell he was playing in terms of winning the ball. in the air. His height is a major problem or major asset.
Oh, without question. So like a
One,
Fellaini.
and yeah, of course. And defensively, he's very, very, very sharp.
I don't think that he's as nice on the ball as you think he is what I'm saying.
He's very good on the ball.
I mean, I agree with Josh. I mean, there's other young youth players that Pochettino could look at and go, right, we've got Caicedo, we've got Enzo, Santos has got his work permit. Let's see how he is in pre-season. Maybe he can come in and be one of the options. But even then, you still need one more. I think you need to have at least 4. Again, a bit like
what it is, Dan, when it comes to Lavia and Onana, in both of their first seasons, I know Everton, you know, they're meaty, right? But Southampton got relegated. Do you know what I mean? And I saw more from Lavia. I saw more consistency from Lavia than what I did from Onana. And like Couch has said, I think Lavia has got a very, very high ceiling. I rate Lavia highly, but like I've always said, I think if we do get him in, we have to bring someone else with him because he's still quite young. So Onana is a good player, but for me, at this stage, I would prefer Lavia. I'd prefer to bring Lavia in. I saw more consistent performances from him last season. Now's not the time to be taking, you know, mad risks, if that makes sense. Like Lavia, I feel like is less of a risk than Onana, in all honesty. And just the fact that we've actually been interested in him for quite a while. We tried in the summer to sign him literally when he went to Southampton. We tried again in January, and of course we're going to try again this summer. So I think there's a recurring thing. There's a relationship already with Joe Shields, so it just makes sense, man. It makes sense. And the fact is, I rate him. He's a very good player. So I would say Lavia all day, man.
I just think that when I watch Onana play, he's a destroyer for sure. He gives me that vibe, like he's a beast back there, but he doesn't really offer the complete package to me, like a guy that can just dribble pass, you know, very composed on the ball, pick passes, you know, range of passing. Like he doesn't give me all of that. He looks like a guy that can definitely control a midfield to be a beast in there for you. But when you think about like a versatile midfielder, he's not the guy that I think about. That's me though.
Well, let's move away quickly from transfers. And obviously it was something that we're going to be talking about pretty much mostly every show for the next coming couple of weeks. But I want to move on to the announcement today around the Chelsea schedule of fixtures for 23-24. Obviously, August, we've got Liverpool, West Ham and Luton, the first 2 games, quite tasty.
Every midfielder's job, Josh. Every midfielder's job.
But what was more tasty was the period between Burnley in October all the way up to Everton in December. So from that November period, we always seem to get hard November, Decembers. Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton, Man United, Everton. Like Brighton, Man United, Newcastle, Man City, Tottenham. Brentford,
and both are games that against United this season are on a Wednesday. Annoyingly, they're midweek for some reason.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is our end of seasons are maybe a little bit easier with Forest and Bournemouth. So depending on where we are at that point, if we're fighting to get in Champions League or if we're whatever where we are, that could be a good point. But I look at this schedule and I think the hardest period by far for us in all of this is up November up to the 9th of December. Them games, that period, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everton away is not really easy. So say 9 games to be played where it could make and break our season again. And we've seen it around the November, December period. Huh?
The October period is not easy either.
As I said, from Burnley all the way up to Everton on the 9th of December. So the 7th all the way down to Everton on the 9th of December. It's just not
rough.
You know what's going to be interesting though? Yeah, actually seeing Burnley. This is going to be a completely different Burnley. They impressed me against United. Like this company style of play. They're not the Burnley of old. This is a different Burnley, guys. So yeah, Jem, you're right, man. That period, I didn't really take it in, but yeah, there's going to be some tough games there
because it's we would have to build up pace like early on, right?
100%.
Against West Ham, Luton, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, like those, Aston Villa, even those type of teams. Because even from Fulham, it's going to get a little hard then to just start picking up points. You know what I mean? Then you have Spurs, City, oh god damn, Brighton, United. That is a ring of death right there.
It could make or break us, but then on the flip side, this guys 100%. Is we have no Europe.
There you go.
Yeah, so we play maybe once a week through that period, maybe twice. once a week, 7th, 21st, 28th, 4th, 11th, 25th, 2nd, 6th. Look, there's about over a week's break in between all of these games. So we haven't really got any excuses, barring on our injuries up to that point, but that we can't go into these games maybe more fresh than an Arsenal or a City or or a Tottenham or a Newcastle, because these guys are going to be in Europe. We're not. And this is what we saw with Arsenal last season, right? They didn't have no European football. They could concentrate on. They did have European football, didn't they? They played.
They had Europa League.
Yeah, so we don't. We don't have anything. So
this is like the 2016 season, man. Where
is this going to be a big benefit for Chelsea? Because not only for Pochettino, because that means we've got more time on the training ground already in Cobham or wherever we are. Yeah. All right, we've got cup games in between, and that's going to probably push us to having 2 games a week sometimes. But the overall season is going to be quite a nice season of football for us, provided we can get the system working quickly, like what Dan said. So from August, which again, all right, it's Liverpool at home, but after West Ham, Luton, that September period, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Fulham, we have to get kicking.
My birthday, man. Yeah, maybe I'll go.
They're the 4 games where we need to start flowing up, and every once a week, making sure we're on game and we're fresh and people are fit, and help people like Reece James don't have to play every blooming game every 2-3 days and get injured. We've got Malo Gusto coming in. Like we've got the potentials of what's going and what we could have coming in, and hopefully the depth that we'll have available. Just playing once a week, and even though that's a daunting period, might actually work well for Poch and Chelsea.
No, I agree. I don't ever want to be out of Europe. I think that any year that Chelsea's not in Europe is not a good season for us. But I mean, for such a young playing staff that we have right now and a new manager, this could probably be the best situation that we can be in. Give him a time on the training pitch to like really implement his idea.
Facts.
Get the kids to understand, because again, the one thing that we don't really see a lot of is like the mental side of the game when you have these young playing staff. They don't necessarily understand what it means to play in these massive fixtures. They haven't done it yet. Even somebody like Lavia, who played at Southampton, he doesn't really necessarily know what it means to play in a big side like Chelsea.
And that's the point I was making to you before. When we had that debate about Rice and Lavia, and the reasons why I would say Rice is less of a risk is because he's more of he's more experienced. Do you know what I mean? It's not to say that Lavia is not going to reach higher heights than him, but at this stage, I would say Rice is definitely more experienced than Lavia. That's the point that I was making before. But I still want Lavia as well as another player.
Yeah, we definitely went all over the map with that, and I agree with you on that for sure. Like, obviously, Rice has more experience. He's an England international. He's had some experience in Europe with West Ham and stuff like that. But yeah, I just think, again, I go back to growth tree and like what I think a player can become. I think Lavia has a lot, and again, the price. I think Lavia has a lot to offer. Or will have a lot.
I think
if he grows correctly.
We're trying to get a lot of H-star prospects, and they're all not going to get the chance to play as much, right? While I feel like even though Onana might be a B+ prospect, right, and he has a few things that he's extremely good at. He's only 20, so he can develop in a lot of ways as well. I just like his physicality is just like an Obi Mikel, right? Just a weapon that you can use at any point. You know what I'm saying?
Lavia is quite physical as well, guys.
No, but I'm saying like, I don't know. I've seen us concede a lot of last minute goals due to our height. For the last few years, we haven't had a lot of height. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a problem for us. You know what I mean? He helped that. So I'm not saying he's not coming in to start. Caicedo is a start guy. He and Enzo, and they're probably going to be fit enough to start 28, 30 games anyway. But having that kind of weapon to come in, and I know like sometimes we overthink he has to have everything. He doesn't have to have everything yet, in my personal opinion.
No, you're right. He doesn't have to have everything yet.
Caicedo, just to reiterate,
when you look at the type of midfield that are being assembled around Europe right now, you need all rounders. You need guys that are, especially if you want to be a possession-based team, you need guys that are going to be good in possession, can use the ball, make good decisions under pressure. And
for those big games, you're going with the number one guy, which is Caicedo. That's your man, right? Like,
yeah.
Either way, but if you want to close out a game, and you see teams lumping the ball in, he's in there. He's physical. He's going to win every ball. He's going to win every tackle, and he's going to be useful there. Right.
Do you think? I think that profile of player is easier to find than a controller in the midfield, an all-rounder. I think you can find a guy that is, beastly in the middle of the pitch. Like I don't think that's a hard find, and it's certainly not a. It
kind of is though. Like,
sorry. So just quickly, Caicedo, he said this on Ben Jacobs said this on here, so I think Chelsea Dodgers probably had it, but basically. The comment here basically says that Caicedo is fully open to Chelsea move even without European football. So European football ain't a thing. Like, he doesn't feel that he has to play in it, because if he did at the end of the day, he would have just stayed at Brighton, right? Because they're in Europe. Yeah. So they don't feel that's the thing with this. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense, to be fair.
I think we're going to get him. Like, I think we're just talking right now about the second guy. Like, who do we want that second guy to be, right? Yeah. And they more so want another all-rounder who can do most things and everything in Lavia. And I think Lavia has gotten his chance to play in the Premier League, so we've seen him. But I think the guys that we have are of the same quality, and we haven't seen them yet.
Can you imagine these two in midfield, though? Pivot.
Oh, jeez. And you know what? Do you know what I'm gassed about this as well, yeah? Is the fact that they're both Spanish speakers. Like, it's so important to be able to communicate on the pitch.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's so important, because Enzo can't speak English yet. So the fact that they're both Spanish, oh, man, the communication between the two is just going to be insane, man.
Absolutely.
It's like
that is going to help. That is going to help.
It reminds me of like us replacing Fabregas and Essien, actually. That is like putting them two together in the same team right now. It's fucking... a good look. It's crazy. Funny enough, Dubois makes me laugh, man. He says, in summer 2009, Poch joined a new club, Espanyol. 12 months later, Chelsea won the league. In summer 2014, Poch joined a new club, Spurs. 12 months later, Chelsea won the league. In summer 2023, Poch took over a new club, Chelsea. And then he's put, he puts like the question mark. Oh, man, he cracks me out with this fucking shit he comes out with. But yeah, guys, Caicedo and a prospect, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it could even be the guy from what's his name?
Diego?
I'm convincing the chat. Come on, chat. Let's go.
No. The guy from Borussia Mönchengladbach. What's it? Kone. Could even be someone like that, Kone.
Nah.
It could be young prospect, across Europe.
The way I'm thinking about it is, so I have a goal scoring center mid I'm trying to develop, right? And that's Caicedo. So he's a unique profile as well. He scores a lot of goals from center mid. So I have that profile there I want to develop. I think Santos is the do it all guy. He scores a lot of goals too, but it's mainly from like set pieces. But his tackling, his ball winning is really, really good. His ball carrying is really good as well. Because I did watch a couple of those under 20 games. He's really good, you know what I mean? But he's also a prospect. He's a young guy. I feel like he's very similar to Lavia. Defensively, he's his number one asset, but he's very, very good on the ball, and he can also carry it. Since I already have that profile, for the last one, I'll just take something a little bit different. Just that.
Who do you think is further along in their development right now, though? Because I don't as much as you think Santos. I don't know if Santos was ready to play in the Premier League. To be honest, I've not seen any evidence of it. I haven't watched him a lot either. I must admit that. But
I watched him for Brazil. And to be honest with you, I wasn't moved. He played for the first team. I watched that game, and
I watched that game too. I wasn't
moved by him.
Like, even just positioning wise, I wasn't moved. Like, he wasn't even in the right position half the time. So I'm not sure he's ready yet. Like,
to be fair to him, he did play as an 8 when he's a 6 that game. Remember, because we had a conversation about it. And I think you said at the time is because he's not going to be given that responsibility in at that level, right? So which makes sense.
He was playing with Casemiro. Casemiro dropped deep and was playing his role. So obviously he was a little bit uncomfortable. It's his first game for his country. He's playing in a position that he's not really comfortable with. It happens, right? Roque didn't have a good first game either. Both of them weren't really good. But I do understand, like, I don't see that as, he can come in here and start for us. No, like, a development arc for this kid, I think he's ready for that.
I think he's ready for a loan, maybe a Premier League loan, give him something like that.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, and like,
this is why I'm annoyed that we didn't even get Europa, because we could have kept these players and given them giving them that game time. Now we've only got one game a week. There's no point keeping a player like Santos and just keeping him on the bench. We might as well loan him out to a good club.
So what minutes is Lavia getting then? Because he's going to be on the bench, no?
Yeah, Lavia will be in and around the bench, but he'll get enough game time.
I think Lavia can spell a little bit more because he's more accustomed to Premier League football at this point in time.
Yeah, so, we've seen it. We've actually seen it.
He's more accustomed to playing a lot more.
He's more accustomed to playing in the Premier League. That's what it is, right? Like he's played here. He understands what the rigors of the league is. He understands tactics at this level. You know, it's.
I don't think that matters as much, though.
It does.
I really do think it does.
It does. You can't ignore that. You cannot ignore that. You cannot ignore Premier League experience.
Like this isn't any random prospect. Like
no, but Dan, you're not wrong. Dan, you're not wrong. You're not wrong because Santos has a Santos. You're not wrong, bro. Because Santos has got a he can be world class in the future. We're only going for the best players around Europe. He's a good find. He's a gem, right? I'm excited about him, but for now, Lavia has shown more at a similar age to him and has already played in the league. We know what we're getting out of Lavia. Whereas with Santos right now, it's a bit. I wouldn't say it's a big risk, but it's a bigger risk than bringing in Lavia right now. Lavia, we've seen it already, and we've already seen it in the Premier.
My only objection to that is the only thing Lavia has over him is he's played 1 year in the Premier League. In terms of accomplishments from a young age, what Santos has won, his personal achievements or personal accolades, it's not comparable.
Yeah. It's look, like I said, I think they're both top players. But what does it for me with Lavia? Same way what done it for me for Rice was the experience. Is the same thing with Lavia, with the experience, the Premier League experience that we've seen.
Just 1 year.
Yeah, but he was consistent. He was consistent.
No pressure. Like it's just 1 year. Like that's like he's good, but I'm saying he's on the same development arc as Santos to me. That 1 year is good, but it's not like okay, he's done it for 1 year. Now he's Premier League ready. It doesn't mean that, especially at the level that we play. Where he plays for Southampton, this is the worst team in the league. So it's like there's no pressure whatsoever. Playing for us is completely different.
Yeah, but he doesn't how he plays the game, he's not a player that's gonna crumble to pressure. Like he's very good on the ball. Like he's technically gifted. That's one thing I'll say about Lavia. Very press resistant. Again, defensively is good. So I've got no concerns around the fact that he plays for Southampton, that he can't do a job for us. Like that's not concerned at all. When a good player is a good player, it doesn't matter what team he plays for. You can see the ability in him. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Do you know what I like about Caicedo, and I'm watching him now, is that he's pressed and his aggressiveness to win the ball back as well. He's not, I see what I mean? Like he's always seems to know when to go on the press, and he's learned that very well. Like if you watch, that's what I'm watching now. Like he is quite, like I know he's not a specialist in, but he carries the traits of being able to look, bang. See what I mean? Like he carries.
Hasn't he only been in the Premier League for a year and a half?
Yeah. Like, look at him. Look at these tackles.
Like we know some of us think he's the best ball winner out there currently, right? I personally do, and that's just from seeing from a year. We just see Lavia a little bit differently. I just don't see that.
Yeah, maybe. I think Red.
I've got a question for you. How many games of Lavia have you watched this season?
Me?
No, Dan.
Maybe this season, maybe 4 games, 4 games.
You've only watched 4 games against who?
Both against us, and then I think I saw him against City. Yeah, 3 games.
Yeah, that's not a large enough sample size, man. You had to watch this guy all season.
I mean, even beyond that, like even Santos, there's not a long.
And his best games were against us. I saw the best of them.
Yeah, he was good against Arsenal. He was good against Arsenal as well. He was good against United.
Even from the sample size that I saw, would you say his best games last season were against us?
One of his best games. Yeah, at the Bridge.
Yeah, I like what I saw. I'm not saying he's not a quality player, but I'm saying the youth, right? 1 season playing against us with no pressure is completely different, and we've seen this time and time over. With like when he comes to us, he's going to be on the same development arc as Santos. That's how I feel. So to me, it's like then it's not like I'm getting, just like kind of like with the Mudryk and Noni thing. Paying more for Mudryk don't mean he's not on the same development level.
Yeah, but what it is, that point that you're using against Lavia, you can use the same point for Santos. You can use the exact same point that you made there for Santos.
I have Santos. I don't have Lavia.
Guys, I do need to shoot off though. Sorry, guys. It's an hour and 35 minutes in on here as well. We will continue this. Obviously, the midfield is going to be a long-winded summer window in terms of who we bring in and whatever. So, Caicedo's looking like it's heating up. We'll keep you updated with that one. Any more news in around other midfielders, we'll do the same. Strikers, outgoings, everything. There's going to just be a lot going on soon. I think we just need to be strapped up and ready for what's about to happen with Chelsea at the moment. So lots to hopefully look forward to, lots of decisions to be made. Lots of more shows now. Lots and lots more shows now. Now it's all heating up. Big love to Dan, Couch, obviously Ben Jacobs, who came on only for a short period of time today.
Triple D's up in the building, man.
Huh?
Triple D is up in the building, son.
Hey, yo.
Don't forget, guys.
Big up.
Don't pick up your Havertz flag. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, here we go, man.
Enough with this.
Oh,
wait. I can't wait for that stream when we see the here we go. I cannot wait for that.
German, it's all that we need.
What?
We want Chelsea, the Champions League, guys. League.
Havertz to Arsenal.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yo, I just wanted to quickly say though, Jem, before we go, just quickly on the midfield again. It's not that I don't think that Santos and Caicedo have potential to be great midfielders. My point of contention is the fact that they haven't played at this level yet. Like, we don't want to rush their development. Give them time to grow step by step. Like we've seen it before. You give a midfielder too much to handle, and it ruins their confidence in the run. So just slowly, step by step, we can get there.
You bring in a Caicedo and you put him next to Enzo, who's ready. Let's be serious. He's Premier League proven. He's played at highest level right into Europe. That really gives you someone in there already that can just come straight in and just get on with it. And we need that for the now. But also, I agree with Couch. Whoever the next person that brings across, whether it's a Latvia, whoever it is, that's obviously going to come in a lot younger, maybe not play as much games and get a lot of, rotation. I think it's important that we make sure that we guide them well and that we get them up to the level or the best levels that are required in a longer time, rather than always going right. They're here. They've got to hit the ground running. They've got to make it work. I think with some players that's still young, you need to give them that time.
And Dan, let's not. I just want just one last point on that as well, Dan. Before you come in, right? The plan is obviously to get back in Europe. So hopefully next season, in 2 seasons' time, we should hopefully have more games. So if Santos goes out on loan to a Premier League club, he can come back into the squad. No problem. No problem.
Lavia is there.
Listen, there's going to be many games, many competitions. You know what I'm saying? This is it.
Not that many games, brother. Like, come on.
There ain't really, just
I mean,
cup games.
You're basically like, so I'm in my head, what's the point of you even getting Santos and paying that 20 million for him or 15 million? I don't know how much it was.
Because he's a
there's got to be a balance. I do agree with Dan to an extent. There's got to be a balance. You can't keep stockpiling young players. That I agree with 100%.
Yeah, that's because their incentives, from what we understand, is to buy another club and maybe use some of these guys to go over there and grow in a more competitive league. So if it's like they buy in Portugal or France and they have all these youth players, on the books, it allows them to input. Like we did with Vitesse and stuff, where we used to just
yeah.
And they used to, it'll be more prepared than that though. It'll be like a French league, Portuguese league. Do you know what I mean? Where they'll be able to bring up their experience, and if they're ready and they're looking good, you bring them back. It's a good way of not having to spend in the future when you've got them.
Yeah, right. You don't spend 20 million on that though.
Yeah, but 20 million could turn Andre Santos into 80 million if he goes. Do you know what I mean?
Good, are we saying, okay, we're just farming them, so we're going to make him that good, like a top player who's worth 80 million and sell him?
Yeah, but it's a win-win both ways, Dan, because even if he doesn't get in, but he goes and off somewhere and does quite well, and another club comes in for 40, 50 million, you make your money back, right? So there is a money. There's a money element behind it.
It's no different. It's no different from what we were doing before, buying all the best young talent and then just putting them on loan and then using them as transactional pieces. That could very well be the case. If he comes in, he goes on loan and he excels and becomes like this player that we all think he can be, he's coming back into the side. There's no doubt about that.
And you have to look at the coach. You've got to look at the coach we got as well. I think Pochettino is a guy that will look at young players and want to bring them through. You saw it with Dele Alli. He was at Tottenham, right? Bought him from NK Dons, brought him over, and he made it work. So I'm not saying he'll do it with every single player, but it's not like we've got a Jose Mourinho or an Antonio
No, I
Conte
agree, but
that just wants to
if you
have the
spend
best
50
players
million
in
on
Europe.
Lavia,
You know what I mean?
if
And
you
win
spend
things.
50 million on Lavia, he's gonna get the minutes. Like, we know this. You know, you can't have a player of that, you know, spending 50 million on a 19-year-old and he's not gonna play. If he's gonna play, he's gonna get the minutes. We know politics a little bit plays a part in football when it comes to giving players a chance. So yeah, you know, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but you know, when you have two 19-year-olds and one costs 50 million, there's a little bit more pressure to play him, no?
100%.
Oh,
100%.
absolutely.
100%.
But I think he's further along in his development though too, as well. Like he's further along in his development. So
I really think he is.
We can't overlook that. We can't overlook that, Dan. It's just facts.
Neither of them have played at this level. They don't know what it's like. It's going to be the same for them.
Yeah, guys, I do need to shoot though. I don't want to continue.
Yeah.
Another thing.
No, I like it. I like it. It's been too long, really. We've not really been able to do as many shows, to be honest. So I get why we're sitting here dragging it on and stuff. But Didishan, big love. He says Caicedo and Nkunku is Kai replacement. Get those DMs is what he feels. Big up to Didishan, man. Yeah, we'll be back, guys. More frequent anyway, with news coming thick and fast by the looks of it with Chelsea. So we'll be back. We'll continue these discussions that we've had with Dan and Don and Couch as well. And I'm pretty sure there's more along the way that we will need to speak on as well. So big up to every single one of you guys. Have a good day, guys. Enjoy it. We'll see you in a bit.